Lot's wife, no origin, just salt, but she is so important to Jesus. Only 2 people are mentioned in the Bible, and we are told to remember them. The first is Jesus himself, and the second is, surprisingly, Lot's wife. Why does Jesus instruct us to remember Lot's wife? It's a puzzling question, especially considering the limited details provided about her in the Scriptures. We're left in the dark about her origins, her lineage, even her given name. She is simply known as Lot's wife. This enigmatic figure raises more questions than answers. Yet, despite the lack of background information, Lot's wife's story holds profound significance. Join me as we delve deeper into the narrative of this lesser-known biblical character and finally answer the age-old question, why salt? Was it punishment, symbolism, or something else entirely? When considering notable figures from the Bible, our minds often gravitate toward figures like Abraham, Moses, or David. These figures are central to the narrative and teachings found within the Bible. However, it's intriguing that amidst these prominent characters, we find a directive to remember Lot's wife. She's not typically someone who springs to mind when we think of important figures from the Bible. What makes this directive even more thought-provoking is the fact that the mention of Lot's wife occurs in the book of Genesis, which is known for its detailed accounts of genealogies and family histories. Despite this focus on lineage and background, there is a notable absence of any substantial information about Lot's wife. It's as if she exists solely within the context of her ultimate fate. Lot, as we know, was the nephew of Abraham. However, due to Abraham's influence and care, Lot was more like an adopted son rather than just a nephew. In Genesis 12 verse 5, we see Abram taking Lot along with him, along with all their possessions, as they embark on their journey to the land of Canaan. Despite this detailed account of their departure, there is no mention of Lot having a wife at this point. Similarly, in later chapters detailing their movements and possessions, there is a notable absence of any reference to Lot's wife. It's evident that Lot did not have a wife prior to his relocation to Sodom. However, after settling in Sodom, we read about Lot's wife, indicating that she likely originated from this city. The lack of mention of her prior to this suggests that her identity and background were not deemed significant enough to include in the narrative. The exclusion of Lot's wife's name and any important details about her background speaks volumes about her character. Unlike other women in the Bible whose backgrounds and actions are often elaborated upon, Lot's wife remains a shadowy figure known primarily for her role in a tragic event. Despite this lack of detailed characterization, we do catch glimpses of Lot's wife in pivotal moments. For instance, when Lot hosted angels, she served as the hostess, demonstrating her role within the household. Additionally, when the wicked men of Sodom attempted to harm Lot and his family, including her, she witnessed the miraculous intervention of the angels, which resulted in their rescue. When God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of their sins, he spared Lot and his family and sent 2 angels to them, who warned them before the destruction and led them out of the city. The angels also begged Lot to hurry their escape, while also ordering him not to look back. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." Genesis 19 verse 17. During their escape, something that we all already know happened. Lot's wife looked back, and then she became a pillar of salt. According to the common interpretation, was her punishment for perverting the angels' request or not believing their words about the overthrow of Sodom. But this is strange for 2 reasons. The first is why not look back? The second is, why did she become a pillar of salt? When reading the verses of the Bible, it is not clear what the reason was why Lot and his family were forbidden to look back and what caused Lot's wife to disobey this warning. There are different explanations for these questions. One of them sees the angel's warning not to look back as a requirement to emotionally detach from the possessions and belongings they left behind. While escaping the revolution, Lot's wife continued to take care of her lost possessions despite the angel's warnings. According to another interpretation, she was punished with salt for sitting with salt. When Lot hosted the angels in his home, he asked his wife to bring some salt. Rather than cooperating with her husband's hospitality, she took advantage of his request to spread rumors to the townspeople about a serious sin she committed. She went to all her neighbors and asked for salt for the guests. When the neighbors heard that there were foreign guests in their house, they gathered around to abuse and hurt them. Just like the rest of Sodom's people, Lot's wife also did not want any part of her possessions or authority taken away for others' benefit, even salt, a small and inexpensive thing. In this way, the people of Sodom believed that they could keep all of their possessions. However, in the end, it turned out that this corrupt and bad attitude brought the opposite result, since all their property was destroyed and exterminated because of their cruelty and selfishness. The reason she was saved was because she was Lot's wife, the nephew of Abraham, but she had to retaliate against the evil possession of the people of Sodom. In light of that, the angels instructed her to give up all of her possessions and assets that remained behind. As long as she stands the test of sacrifice and kindness, she will be saved. When the whole city was destroyed and only Lot's wife and her family were saved, she still followed the bad habits of the people of Sodom and regretted the loss of her property. It is unclear whether her death was due to her refusal to leave her old life quickly, or if it was as a result of her valuing her old life so much. Possibly, she identified too much with the city and joined it, or she neglected to fully obey God's warning, and she died. 1 John 5 verse 16 says that willful, deliberate sin can lead to death. If you see any brother or sister commit a sin that does not lead to death, you should pray and God will give them life. Lot's wife wasn't able to accept that. Her values in her heart led her to sin, which led to her death. The Bible isn't clear whether Lot's wife was covered in the salt that rained down with the brimstone, or if remained dusted with a coating of salt later. This image of Lot's wife standing over the Dead Sea area, where no life exists to this day, reminds us not to look back and not to turn back from our commitment to faith. Her death was a result of her looking back. It was more than a glance. It was a look of longing that indicated a reluctance or desire to return to Lot's house. It doesn't matter what happened. The point is that she was called to abandon everything in order to save her life, but she couldn't let go, and she paid for it. In Luke, Jesus mentions this story as a prophecy. It was the same in the days of Lot. People were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building. But the day Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just like this on the day the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, no one who is on the housetop, with possessions inside, should go down to get them. Likewise, no one in the field should go back for anything. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever tries to keep their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will preserve it. Luke 17 verses 28 to 33. Lot's wife is a character from the Bible who played a small but significant role in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. This might seem like a strange punishment, but it carries a profound message. God was teaching the importance of obedience and trust. Looking back shows a lack of faith and a reluctance to move forward. God wanted Lot's family to completely let go of their old ways. But why salt? Well, in biblical times, salt was often used to preserve things and symbolize a covenant. Some theologians suggest that her transformation into salt was a way for God to symbolically preserve her disobedience as a warning for others. That is why she was punished with salt, according to her actions. The one who thought she would only care for herself and preserve her wealth at all costs without considering others ended up turning into a pillar of salt and becoming a preservative. With that said, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this exploration, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more thought-provoking content on faith, history, and culture. Remember, sharing is caring, so spread the word and let's continue this journey together.